Be patient.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Stephen Berry, and thank you for joining us today, where we're looking at the new word processor from Lotus, Word Pro 96. And to show us around this new word processor, we have Karen. Hello.
Hi.
Well,
hello, Stephen.
It's my pleasure to welcome Karen again to the Softvision studios. We've seen you here before with other products.
Yes, you have. Some of you will remember AMI Pro, and we were here doing a video a little while ago, so I'm glad to be back.
In fact, you have a very interesting history with this product because you go right back to when it was called Samner.
Yes, that was when it was from a company called Samner, and Lotus took Samner over. And in those days it was called AMI and then AMI Pro, and I've been there since the beginning.
So presumably we've got people watching that have come in at different points along the way. We're looking at the new version for Windows 95 today.
Yes, we are.
Is it fundamentally different?
There are quite a lot of differences. I think you'll find that it's mainly the differences are because of the Windows 95 interface. But also there's lots of hot new features. Hopefully today I think we'll be concentrating on some of the basic features because obviously we want to learn from scratch. But there are also lots of advanced team computing features within Lotus Word Pro.
Team computing. Now, is this another one of your little buzzwords?
Yes, it's part of the Lotus products working together, but it's also because of Lotus Notes, the groupware product, and it works together with that. But it also has lots of features for people working in teams together. Having said that, though, I think that's probably something we might even look at in another advanced video, and we are going to try and concentrate on the basics today.
Okay, now there may be some people watching that already have some skills using AMI Pro. Are they going to have to relearn a lot of this in Word Pro?
I think there'll be, it will take a little while for some people to make the transition, but mainly it's because of the interface features of Windows 95. Really, the basics structures is still there, things like the Lotus style sheets or AMI Pro style sheets. We now call them Smart Masters, so that's the difference.
Okay, right. So there's no real fundamental difference, it's a different name and slightly different perhaps.
Yeah, I think they'll make the transition quite well.
Okay, now there's probably one or two people watching that are sitting there thinking, now I've seen this person before. And of course you are well known on the presentation circuit. You've done a lot of work in the past for Lotus at shows.
Yes, I have, yes.
So if that's what you're thinking, that's where you've seen her perhaps. Fine, well, shall we make a start?
Yes, let's do that.
Okay, just a few tips first on how to watch the film. And rather than try and watch us for 3 hours continuously, you can if that way inclined, you might find it easier just to fast forward to the section that you want to learn about. And we've given you a little on-screen clock to help you find the section of interest to you. Okay, here we go. Let's have a look now. And you're inside Windows 95 here, and you can see the colourful, cloudy background there.
Yes.
With some icons.
Okay, what we've got here is the Lotus program box, or I suppose we call in Windows 95 we call it a folder. Sorry. Now inside that we have Lotus Word Pro, and this is how you actually start up your applications.
Right.
If we want to go into Lotus Word Pro, then all we do is double click. That's 2 clicks on the mouse here.
Yeah.
On the left-hand side, we also have a dialogue editor, and that allows you to create your own dialogue boxes, perhaps for use with some programs or macros you might be creating.
That sounds
and again, we now call them scripts.
Yep.
And you can use that with all the Lotus applications.
What about that README?
We also have a README file. I actually found this very useful when I first looked at Word Pro. Definitely take a look through this because it will tell you about the new features and some of the things that you really should get to grips with to get you started. It's really useful.
Well, I think we should start and move on to the first chapter. So how did you say we start Word Pro? Okay,
all we need to do is double-click on the Lotus Word Pro icon in the centre.
Fine. Let's do that now and move on. Well, it's time to dig out the binoculars because we're going on a little tour, and you're going to be our tour guide, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
I think it'd be useful just, probably for those people who haven't seen AMI Pro before, and certainly that are new to Word Pro, to have a look at all the screen elements, all the things they see on the screen when they start the software.
Yes, certainly. We'll just give you a little guided tour and show you how to use the interface and how to communicate with Word Pro.
Okay, let's have a look at that now. And I noticed when you started Word Pro, we came up with this rather large dialog box.
Yeah, this is the first thing that you see when you first go in to open up Word Pro. It's a welcome to Lotus Word Pro dialog box. you see lots of dialog boxes giving you options, things that you can choose to do. So what do you want to do when you're going into word processing? You want to create a document, but you get a choice.
What are these little tabs we see?
Yeah, it's a nice way of actually choosing. For example, you can open an existing document or create a new document using what we call a smart master.
In fact, you're getting a
style sheet.
A little preview there of the document, aren't you?
Yes, that's quite nice as well, because this is a document we've created before. You can see on the left the document name and the directory which it's being held in. On the right-hand side, you get a preview, so you can actually see it's got quite a nice style. It also gives you a description, which I put on, obviously, when we created the file originally.
Will you show us later how to do that?
We can do that, yes, certainly.
And all this, I mean, it looks a little worrisome, all of this. We've got C:\wordpro.w95. Should we be too worried about that?
No, I don't think we need to go into that in too much detail at this stage, but what this is telling you is the path name of where your document is being stored. So on the right, the very end of the path is actually the file name itself.
Yes.
One of the nice things about Windows 95 is really that you can almost give any file name now. You don't have to stick to the usual 8 characters plus a standard extension.
Yes.
So you really can call your document just business, for example. But however, having said that, you might be opening an old AMI Pro document which will have the old extension name.
Yeah, in fact, you also just mentioned Smart Masters. Perhaps we could just spend a few moments talking about those.
Yes, certainly. Smart Masters, we used to be called style sheets, and they allow the user to format the way the document looks. Really, it's a bit like a template. So, for example, I want to do a memo or a letter, and I choose a memo style sheet or Smart Master, which has already been set up for me, or maybe I've created it with my own company logo. But really, all it means is all you have to do then is type in the text and get going on actually creating the document.
So the user doesn't have to worry about all the sort of design elements in the document?
No, I mean, things like page layout will already be there for you. Paragraph styles, the text styles are already done.
Excellent.
Margins, tabs, that kind of thing can be included in a Smart Master.
All the things that people typically get hung up on.
Yes.
Yes, okay. I noticed also you had a browse for more files, so if the one you're looking for isn't there?
Yes, so we could actually go to look in another area, in perhaps another directory. I think we'll have a look at that later on. Perhaps if we open this file, again, to open the file, opening an existing document, I'm just double-clicking on the file name.
Just double-clicking.
Just 2 clicks.
Okay. Oh, and now things are changing on the screen.
Okay, now we need to have a look at the actual interface, how we work with Word Pro. On the top of the screen, the very top of the screen, we see the Lotus Word Pro title there. That's actually part of Windows 95, telling us which program we're in. But it also gives us the name of the file that's open, and it's the business plan, the business document.
That's the name that was saved with this file?
That's the file name itself.
What about over on the far right? We see these in Windows 95, these new buttons. Perhaps you might like to explain these to people.
Yes, they work the same way as if you've used Windows before or if you've used AMI Pro before. However, they just look a little bit different. The one on the left-hand side here, if you click on that, it actually allows you to minimise the program, and it takes it down to the Windows 95 status bar. So now the actual program has been minimised. To get it back again when you're ready to work with it again, you just click on it and it brings it back up again.
So that's one way of working with keeping your applications minimised.
Yes, what that would allow me to do is to put sorry, not AMI Pro.
You have to get into the habit of saying Word Pro.
I have to remember that it's now Lotus Word Pro. Putting Word Pro away for a minute and maybe going to do a spreadsheet in something like Lotus 123 perhaps.
What about the button in the middle? 2 little documents.
The one in the middle actually allows you to just make the window a little bit smaller. So again, if you're working with other applications, in the Windows 95 environment here, you can see, I can still see Lotus Word Pro, but maybe I could be working with other applications on the same screen at the same time.
Can you resize these windows at all?
You can as well. If you move your mouse to the corner or the edges of a window, and then click with a mouse, and all I'm doing is moving my mouse now and dragging. And you can see how I can resize the window.
So could you, if you wanted to, have multiple applications in their own little windows like this?
Yes, you could. You could have several applications open at once, and you can also move the windows around the screen.
Well, can you show us how to do that?
Yes, I can. What we need to do, you can see the window here. At the top, in the title bar of the programme, all we do is click once with the left mouse button, and then again, just moving your mouse is dragging it, and perhaps I want to move that down to the right-hand side, and then pick up something else, work with maybe another programme. And you can see how clicking on a window brings it to the front, and I want to work with that.
Right.
Clicking back on that one brings it to the front and work with that one.
And you still have this button down the bottom here for Word Pro as well, which
yes,
actually
we do.
just changed, didn't it?
And you can see that it's indented, which means that that is the programme that I'm working on now. It just changed because I brought this window forward.
Okay, so how would you make this window bigger?
Well, you just use the same button that you did to make it small, which is simple. So if we click on that again, and that brings it back up to full screen.
Okay. Now we see something that we saw in the previous version of Windows, which I think confused a little some people. You've got a duplicate set of buttons beneath the ones we just looked at.
Yes, I suppose it could be a little bit confusing. What we've got here now, the next thing down on the screen from the Windows 95 title bar telling us that we've got Word Pro is the Word Pro itself. This is now Word Pro's screen, and this is the menu bar. So you can actually see the menus that we want to choose from. So for example, if I want to look in the File menu, a simple click will pull down the menu. So they're called pull-down menus.
Let's just spend a few moments examining the menus, because there's quite a lot of detail there. First of all, 3 little dots. You've heard me ask this question before.
Yes. For example, just so the viewers can see that clearly, I'll stay off it. But if you look at Open, the second one down in this menu, you can see 3 little dots. And that means that when I choose to open something, it's going to ask me some more questions. So which file would you like to open, for example? Shall we just have a look at that? If I click on that, then what it's going to do is bring me a dialog box. Again, a dialog box where you can make choices.
Right.
Which directory or folder do we want to look in?
Okay, so before it does the command, it needs further information from you.
It does, yes. So, for example, what's the name, the file name you're looking for? What type of file is it?
Okay.
So you get choices.
And to come out of the dialog box?
Here you can see we've got open buttons, cancel, or if you want help, we'll just choose cancel, or escape on the keyboard is the same way of cancelling or going back a step.
Okay, so the 3 little dots indicate that a dialog box is coming.
Yeah, let's just go back into the menu here. We've also got some keyboard shortcuts. So you get quite a lot of these throughout Word Pro for quick ways of doing something. Control-O on the keyboard for open a file, Control-S to save, Control-P to print, and so on.
Okay. What about the little black arrow further down the list there?
Okay, well, as soon as I move on to that, if you just watch this again, as I move down, I don't even need to click, but it appears. So it's like an extra sub-menu, sub-pull-down menu, and it appears by itself. So under the Internet option, I can perhaps open something from the Internet.
So this is a very topical issue, the Internet. It's something everybody's talking about.
Everyone's surfing the net.
So you've got some Internet support within Word Pro?
Yes, we have. It's something that I actually haven't got into using the Internet myself yet.
You haven't been surfing yet?
But that's something that you can show me, Stephen.
Okay, that's something maybe for another time. So the little arrow indicates that a pop-out menu will appear with more options?
Yes, it does.
Okay, good.
Now you notice once I've opened one menu, all I need to do is move my mouse and I'm hovering across the edit and it pulls down the menu without me having to click.
We've got some greyed out text here now.
Yes, we do. And that's because it's not appropriate to do any of those things at the moment. The things that are grey are cut, copy, paste. Well, I haven't highlighted anything. I haven't selected what do I want to copy, for example. So it's grey, meaning, well, it's not appropriate to do that at this moment.
Okay, so it takes away things that aren't relevant to you.
Yes, that's right. Everything else I would be able to do on this document, for example, check spelling.
So the menus are very quick point-and-click access using the mouse, and we understand what those little black arrows are now.
Yes, certainly.
What about people who like the keyboard? We used to have keyboard access to menus and other functions.
Yes, we do. And notice that I've moved on to the view menu now. If I wanted to change my view to, for example, well, I'm in layout mode. You can see by the little tick that that's the one I've got on the screen at the moment.
Right.
But you can also see that under layout, it actually underlines the L.
Yes, so there is one letter in each word there that's underlined.
Yeah, and what that means is that once I'm in a menu like this, imagine we didn't have the mouse or we preferred to use the keyboard, I can use my up and down arrow keys to highlight, or all I could do was hit the L to go into the layout mode or the D to go into the draft mode.
Yeah. Okay, so that's another way that people can use to do it.
Yes.
But I guess a mouse is quicker for the most part, isn't it?
I think it is, yeah, and I think people are getting used to using mice these
the little
days.
Mice, yes. Okay, now you mentioned these, we've seen the menus, and over to the far right, coming back to my previous question of the little buttons, perhaps we could just focus on those for a moment.
Yes. If we have a look at these buttons over here, again, it's that they look the same as the ones that we've got there, and indeed they do the same thing. So if we click on the one on the left, what that does is it minimises the file that I've got open. So it's really, in effect, doing a similar thing, but within Word Pro, we're minimising the business document that we had open.
So you could have a variety of documents open here.
I could, and I could, again, move them around if I want to by clicking on the blue bar and picking it up. Move them around the screen. I could have another one open here.
Doesn't much look like a document, does it?
Swap from one to the other.
Okay, to bring it back?
Okay, to bring it back again, you can just click back on the same button that you did to make it smaller to start with.
Right. Okay. And what about the X button? What does that do?
The X button actually closes the file, so we won't do that just now. The same way that the X button above that would actually close Word Pro itself.
So the tip here is to remember that buttons in line with the Word Pro text at the top indicate it's the application.
Yes.
And the buttons in line with the menus indicate they apply to the document.
That's right, yes.
Good. Now, the colourful smart icons.
Yes, users of AMI Pro and other Lotus products will be used to the smart icons. Sorry, I'm waving my mouse about here.
Well, I just saw that little bubble coming out there.
Yeah, as I move my mouse over the icons, I can choose to have bubble help switched on, and that means that it's telling me perhaps I'm a new user and I'm getting used to them. This first icon here, it looks like a shiny new page, will create a new document. This one looks like an arrow coming out of a folder. It will open an existing document. Usually they're quite self-explanatory. It looks like a printer. I think it does anyway.
In fact, that's what it does.
Prints. So, for example, if I was to actually use my mouse now and click on the print button, then it brings up the print dialog box with all the printing options in. I'll just cancel there. We won't go into that just at this stage.
So simple, bit like buttons on your television. One click and it turns it on.
That's right. So again, the next one, a little arrow going back on itself, it will undo. We call these the Lotus Smart Icons, and you have them within all the Lotus products.
Yep.
And they allow single-click access to the things that you use most frequently.
Now, the little yellow help there is probably very good for newcomers, but I imagine once you learn Word Pro, it could be a distraction.
Yes, you can turn it off in the or disable it in the user setup, which we're going to have a look at a little bit later.
Good. Okay, and probably some people are wondering whether these smart icons are customizable. Could you create your own, for example?
Yes, you can create your own, and you can create your own smart icon palette, which is, I think, perhaps what you might do, because nearly every feature that you can do in Word Pro, there is an icon for you to do it, and more. Nice. So you can create your own palette. So instead of having the standard ones that I have at the top, you might have a set of smart icons for editing.
Okay, good. So if you're a fairly creative sort of person, you might want to do that later.
Yes.
Now, beneath the smart icons, little tabs again.
Okay, what we've got here, this is part of the document itself. I've actually opened rather a large document here, and it has several sections in it. And this is quite a new feature within Word Pro. It allows me to divide large documents up, or maybe have multiple documents together all in one file. So, for example, the front section is a cover letter, and it's explaining that to me.
Right.
The next tab, if I click on that, is the title page, and you can just about see there it's changed. I'll just scroll.
Is that right, that's to move through.
And it's a business plan page there. The third section, or division, is a company profile. These could have even been created with from different documents using different smart masters.
Yep.
And the fourth one is products and services. And then if I want to add more divisions or sections within those, I can.
So are they pages, actual pages in the document, or is it a slightly different concept?
Well, it is a slightly different concept to just new pages. What it is really is allowing you to have multiple documents within a file and navigate through them very easily. Right. It's a topic that perhaps we'll talk about in more detail a little bit later on. If we just move over to the right of the screen a little bit, you can see here that we actually have a button which allows us to view those tabs. If I click on it there, the tabs disappear. So if you maybe don't have multiple page documents and you find that it gets in the way, or you want to turn them on and off.
Okay, and there they are.
Turn them off, turn them on, okay?
So it depends on how you want to work.
Yes.
I noticed you got a little... I was going to ask you about the ruler that we used to have in AmiPro, and I noticed there's a little icon there for it.
Yes, we've had what we call it's a tab ruler. It allows you to see tabs and indents and things like that, and it's a smart icon which we've set up on this palette. So if we click on that, that switches the tab ruler on, and you can see that this particular document we've got regular left type of tabs set along the tab ruler there.
You're getting different icons with the mouse, but you're not actually clicking, are you?
No, I'm not actually clicking. What it's doing here is showing me that if I was to click now on this tab ruler, I won't do that because it'll put a new tab in. That's what it's doing. It will put a new tab in here. If I were to, when I'm hovering over an actual tab, little left and right arrow is there, meaning if I were to now click on this and move my mouse, I'm actually moving the tab itself.
Right.
Now that will affect the text perhaps that I've highlighted, so I'll let that go.
Yes.
So what we're looking at here really is that the Lotus Word Pro interface is very context sensitive. It will give you the tools that you want to do the job you're trying to do at the time.
Right.
We're trying to do something with tabs. We don't have to look in a menu. It gives me the tools. As soon as I want to change my tab, the mouse becomes context sensitive.
Right. Okay, so it's a little bit more intuitive in the way it works.
It is, yes. It makes things a bit easier.
Now, you briefly showed us the scroll bar there. Can we have another look at that?
Yes. Around the edges of all Windows dialog boxes and screens, you can see we've got what we call a scroll bar, and this allows you to move through the document. So to move around the document, what I can do is just click on the bottom arrow here, and you can now see the documents moving down. And
that little box is
moving with it. So it allows me to view it. Yeah, I call it the elevator. It's a bit like, you know, watching the elevators going up and down. Oh. Now notice what I've done here is I've clicked on it and I'm actually holding my mouse button down and I'm dragging that. And as I do that, I can see products and services company profile. And this is to do with the sections that we were looking at, or divisions of the document. If I were to let my mouse go here, I'd be at the company profile section.
Okay.
So it's moving me through a large document, but also giving me information about where I am at the same time.
And it's taking the guesswork out of finding your way through the document. And there's also a scroll bar running horizontally too across the page, I noticed.
Yes, of course, that moves you left and right across the page. So if I move right across to the left-hand side, we're now at the left-hand side of the page. You can see the edge of the paper here.
That's
and
the
a
edges
shadow
of that
behind
colour.
it. Yes, it's really just to show you that that's imagining that was like your paper, your page.
Okay.
And again, if we just want to move over to the right, click on the right button. The elevator's now moving to the right, and we're over at the right margin of the page there.
What about that grey line running down the page?
That is actually a guide, and it's showing you the margins. And it's a display, it's a choice. You can decide how to display the margins. You might like to have the margins displayed in colour, for example. We've just left them white here, and it's just a guideline.
Okay. While we're just down at the bottom of the screen, there's a few other things. I've noticed PG1 showing.
Yes, that tells me I'm on page 1 of the document because we've moved back to the beginning. And so what I can do is just move down to page 2, just using this little page or page 3, and you can see that things are changing on the screen here. Move back up to the beginning.
Right.
If I were to click on this area, though, just once with a mouse, it also has a quick way of getting into go to. Where would you like to go in the document? I need to move to the beginning. I need to move to the end. Different divisions that you want to move to. So if I want to move to a different page or a different section within the document, you can see that here.
And type of document part to go to?
Yeah, let's have a look at that. If I click there, it just brings down that drop-down options that we have here list.
Oh, that's useful.
And different areas that we can go to.
So you can go to a page break, which is often
Yeah.
something useful to do.
Or sometimes when you've put maybe marks in a document, I might have put a large document, lots of people editing a document together. We might put something like bookmarks in, or comment notes, and I want to move to the next bookmark,
Yep.
go to the next bookmark, working through the document or the next comment, and say, right, what do we have to do here? What do we have to do at this stage?
Okay, now you mentioned that we could use escape on the keyboard also to come out of a dialog box.
Yes, okay, we'll do the keyboard this time. So if I touch escape,
There it is.
then it's cancelled away. So if you're not sure what you're doing, it's a quick way of getting out of something that...
Yes, escaping out of something. What about the, we've got Times New Roman and 12 over on the left.
Right, we're right down at the bottom of the Word Pro screen now. And on the left-hand side here, you can see we've got, it says Times New Roman. This whole bar is called the Lotus Smart Status Bar. And again, it's something that's common throughout all the Lotus products. If we click on that, as you can see, there's a little arrow indicates it's a pop-up menu.
Oh, and these are all your fonts.
Okay, I've got a hell of a lot in there, haven't I?
Yes.
Okay, so lots of different types of fonts or type styles that you can choose
Hattenschweiner.
from. Yes, you might not, perhaps you might not install quite so many, but again, it might depend on some fonts that come with Windows, some fonts that you get outside of a program or with your printer driver.
Okay.
Okay, next to that we have the number 12, which is actually the size of the text, and that's what we call it the point size. So if we look in there, it gives you all the different sizes of text.
Okay.
Okay, so for example, we could maybe highlight some text. I'll just do this for
dragging over it.
you.
Yep.
I'm just dragging over it. We'll revisit this later and say, well, I want that to be 14 point size,
Okay.
a bit bigger.
So that's just a quick
I'll
way of
put it
changing
back to 12. Okay, next to that we have colours
Ooh.
and shades. So lots of different shades and colours that you can choose from for your text. If you're not colour printing, maybe the grey scales is something that you'd like to try. Or sometimes if you're doing something a bit fancy, white text on a black background is quite
Yes.
nice.
And you just hit escape there?
Yes, I just touched escape there to make that one go away so you can see the screen underneath.
I think we can guess these three: bold, italic, underline.
Yeah, really this is an alternative to having these icons in the Smart Icon palette. This is something we're doing regularly when we're editing text, bold, italics, formatting. So we've got a couple of these icons on the bottom of the screen. And again, we'll come back and show you that working in a little while.
Yep. Default text.
This one here actually shows you what we call paragraph styles. So these are styles that you can apply to your text to format it. So for example, default text is what I've got here. All the text here, you can see it's a bit basic, ordinary fonts. And so I can choose that style. I might choose a bullet style. I might want a header or footer or a numbered list.
Okay.
And again, we'll come back and use that later.
Okay. And finally, you've got the time and the date showing. For forgetful people.
Yes. This bar here just shows the time and the date, which is probably the most useful thing to have viewing. If you click on it, however, it gives you a few different choices that you can choose from. For example, if you choose the next option here, it's changed to show, it says insert, and that's because Word Pro works automatically in insert mode. So as I type, it inserts.
Right.
Okay. If I were to click on it again, then I can change